Lucas sat in the dim living room, the clock ticking loudly as silence pressed against his chest. His mother, Anna, said, "It's over, Lucas. Your father and I can't do this anymore." Her words cut through him like glass. James stood near the doorway, his arms crossed, his face cold and distant. Lucas whispered, "No, you can't." The walls seemed to close in as Anna's voice cracked. "We tried, but love doesn't hold us anymore." Tears stung Lucas' eyes. The memory of laughter at the dinner table flashed, shattered now by the sound of his father's bitter sigh. James said, "This isn't about you, son, it's about us." The words burned, yet Lucas felt every piece of himself splinter. Anna's sobs filled the room. Lucas wanted to scream, to pull them back together with his hands. Instead, he collapsed into the couch, unable to breathe as the weight of his family's collapse crushed his chest. Lucas sat on the edge of his bed, his room heavy with silence. The posters on his wall looked like faded ghosts, reminders of a simpler time. He whispered, "Why did this happen to us?" His voice cracked as he pressed his hands to his face. His chest felt hollow, like someone had carved out the light inside. Anna's words echoed endlessly. "It's over." Lucas shook his head, muttering, "They can't just stop loving each other, they can't." His breath quickened, shoulders trembling, as he struggled to hold himself together. A dull ache pressed against his ribs, the kind that didn't fade with tears. He stared at the desk lamp, its light flickering weakly, and wished it could swallow him into warmth. His heart screamed for something to change, for someone to tell him this was a nightmare. But there was only silence, deep and crushing. He whispered, "I don't know how to live in this world anymore," and pulled his hoodie tight, bracing against the storm raging inside. The kitchen was filled with tension, so thick it seemed to choke the air. Anna slammed her palm against the table, her voice rising. "I gave you everything, James. Everything." Her face was red, streaked with tears. James stood across from her, fists clenched, his voice sharp and bitter. "It's finished, Anna. Stop pretending there's something left to save." Lucas stood frozen in the doorway, his fingers digging into the wood, whispering, "Please stop. Just stop." His voice was small, drowned beneath their thunderous words. Anna's sob broke through her rage, her body trembling as she tried to stand taller. James looked away, his jaw stiff, his eyes empty. Lucas' heart raced, each word cutting deeper than the last. He thought of dinners filled with laughter, moments when his parents smiled at each other. Now the kitchen echoed with hate and sorrow, and all he could do was stand helpless, breaking quietly inside. Anna collapsed into her chair, her strength evaporating like smoke. Her hands covered her face as sobs escaped uncontrollably. "I gave you everything, James," she whispered again, her voice breaking apart. James turned his back, staring at the counter, his shoulders rigid. His silence screamed louder than his words ever could. Lucas took a step forward, his lips trembling as he whispered, "Mom." But he stopped mid-step, frozen, powerless to comfort her. The air was heavy, suffocating, as though the walls themselves mourned. Anna's shoulders shook violently, her body surrendering to grief she had carried for years. James clenched his jaw, refusing to look back, his hands pressed against the counter as if holding himself up. Lucas' eyes stung as he realized he was watching his family unravel, strand by fragile strand. The boy wanted to be strong, but all he felt was small, fragile, and broken, lost in the storm of two hearts collapsing. Lucas sat on the porch steps, the chill of the night seeping into his bones. The moonlight bathed the wooden boards in a pale glow, and the distant bark of a dog echoed in the stillness. He hugged his knees, whispering, "I can't hold them together." His words vanished into the cold air, unheard by anyone. His breath clouded in the night, trembling with each exhale. Above him the stars blurred, tears distorting their light. His chest felt heavy, as though the universe itself pressed against him. The house behind him was quiet, but inside its walls, pain burned like fire. Lucas pulled his hoodie tight, his body shaking, but it wasn't the cold that made him shiver, it was fear. He wondered if love ever lasted, or if it always ended in ruins. His lips trembled as he whispered again, "I can't hold them together," and a single tear slipped down, catching the moonlight as it fell. Lucas sat at his desk, staring at a framed picture of his family from years ago. They were smiling in the summer sun, his father's arm around his mother, his own grin wide and innocent. He whispered, "We were happy once." His voice cracked, barely audible. The memory was sharp, a blade in his chest. He closed his eyes and felt the ache grow stronger. Anna walked in quietly, placing her hand on his shoulder. She said softly, "Lucas, I know this hurts." He shook his head, muttering, "You don't know how much." Anna's tears glistened in the dim lamplight as she whispered, "I tried for you." Lucas pressed his fists against his knees, the weight of her words sinking deep. He wanted to hate her, but all he felt was sorrow. The room seemed to breathe with their pain, every shadow reminding them of what had been lost. Lucas walked with his best friend Ethan after school, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows on the cracked sidewalk. Ethan asked, "You okay, man?" Lucas forced a half smile. "I don't know what okay feels like anymore." Ethan frowned, shoving his hands into his pockets. "You don't have to go through this alone," he said. Lucas shook his head, his voice rough. "Feels like I already am." The air smelled of asphalt and dust, cars rushing by. Lucas felt smaller with each passing step. Ethan bumped his shoulder gently, trying to lift his spirits. "I'll be here no matter what," Ethan said firmly. Lucas looked down, whispering, "Thanks." His chest eased slightly. The first time in days he didn't feel completely hollow, but the cracks inside him still bled, fragile and deep. Anna sat across from Lucas at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly around a coffee mug. She whispered, "I've worked so hard to keep us together." Lucas stared at the table, tracing invisible lines with his finger. He muttered, "Why wasn't it enough?" Anna's breath shook as she said, "Sometimes love just runs out." Lucas looked up, his eyes red, voice trembling. "I don't believe that. Love doesn't vanish." Her lips quivered as she fought back tears. The clock ticked on the wall, each second like a hammer striking Lucas' chest. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all he could do was stare at the cracks in her face, lines carved by years of sacrifice. Lucas sat in his room surrounded by school books and unfinished homework. He stared at his open notebook, the words on the page blurring through his tears. He whispered, "Maybe if I just keep pretending, things won't fall apart." He pressed his pen hard, the ink blotting, his hand trembling. Anna called softly from the hallway, "Dinner's ready." He didn't answer, his chest heavy with dread. He remembered when dinner meant laughter, when James would tell stories, when Anna smiled brightly. Now it was silence and broken glances. He dropped the pen and pressed his head into his arms. "I just want it all back," he whispered, his voice breaking. His room felt too small, the walls pressing in with every breath. James sat on the couch, staring blankly at the muted television. Lucas entered slowly, the weight of silence pressing on both of them. James said without looking up, "This isn't your fault." Lucas clenched his fists, whispering, "Then why do I feel like it is?" James rubbed his temples, his face exhausted, his tie loosened. "Because you love too much," he muttered. Lucas' throat tightened, the words feeling like ash. He wanted to believe his father, but his heart screamed otherwise. "Do you even love her anymore?" Lucas asked suddenly. James froze, his jaw tight, his silence louder than any answer. Lucas turned away, eyes burning, whispering, "That's all I needed to know." The distance between them grew like an ocean. The living room was silent until Anna broke it with trembling words. "Lucas, your father and I are getting divorced." Her voice cracked under the weight of finality. Lucas froze, his stomach twisting, his throat too dry to speak. James stood beside her, hands shoved in his pockets, his face stone. Lucas muttered, "No, you can't mean that." His voice shook with disbelief. Anna reached out, but her hands shook. "We tried, honey. We just can't keep fighting like this. Lucas felt the floor disappear under him. His chest burned, and his vision blurred with tears. James said flatly, "This is better for all of us." Lucas' voice cracked. "Better? How can breaking us apart ever be better?" His mother sobbed quietly, while James stared away. Lucas' body trembled, as if the whole world had crumbled in an instant. He felt like he was watching his life split into pieces that could never fit back together. The argument erupted suddenly, loud and raw. James shouted, "You always made me the villain, Anna." His voice thundered through the kitchen. Anna slammed her fist against the counter, crying, "Because you stopped trying years ago." Lucas covered his ears, his heart pounding. He yelled, "Stop it!" But neither parent listened. James' face twisted with anger, his fists clenched. Anna's tears blurred her sight, her words tumbling out between sobs. Lucas stumbled back, whispering, "You're tearing me apart." He wanted to vanish, to erase the sound of their voices. Every word felt like a blade carving into his heart. His knees buckled slightly as he leaned against the wall. He realized there was no safe space left, no place untouched by their war. The home that once felt warm was now a battlefield, and he was the casualty. Lucas stormed into his room, his voice breaking as he shouted, "You both ruined everything." He threw his backpack across the floor, the sound echoing like thunder. Anna followed him, pleading, "Lucas, please don't shut me out." His chest heaved as he cried, "I hate this. I hate all of it." His fists pounded against the wall, his skin reddening. He fell to his knees, gasping for breath. Anna crouched near him, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm still here, Lucas," she whispered. He shook his head violently, tears falling fast. "But not him. He's gone," Lucas said bitterly. The silence afterward was deafening. He clutched his stomach, as if the pain was too much to hold. Anna reached toward him, but her hand stopped halfway, afraid to touch his grief. His sobs filled the room until exhaustion dragged him down into quiet trembling. At school, Lucas sat quietly in the library, his eyes red, his face pale. His teacher, Mr. Harris, noticed and walked over. "Lucas, are you all right?" His gentle tone made Lucas flinch. Lucas whispered, "No, but I don't know how to fix it." Mr. Harris pulled up a chair, his presence calm. "You don't need to fix everything," he said. Lucas shook his head, muttering, "If I don't, they'll fall apart completely." Mr. Harris leaned forward, eyes kind. "Sometimes it's not your burden to carry." Lucas looked down, fighting the tears. The quiet library hummed softly, distant whispers of other students muffled by shelves. For a moment, Lucas felt less alone. His teacher didn't have answers, but he gave him something else, space to breathe. Lucas nodded faintly, whispering, "Thanks." It wasn't much, but it was the first thread of comfort he had felt in days. That night, the air in the house was thick with tension as bills lay scattered on the table. Anna rubbed her temples, whispering, "We can't afford this anymore." James shook his head, muttering, "I'll figure something out." Lucas stood in the corner, listening. His chest tightened as he realized their problems weren't just love, they were survival. Anna's voice cracked, "We're drowning, James." James slammed his palm on the table. "Don't you think I know that?" Lucas' hands trembled as he gripped the wall for balance. His world felt like it was caving in. He whispered to himself, "It's never going to stop." The sound of his parents' despair carved deeper than any fight. He wanted to run, but his legs refused. The home that once held laughter was now drowning in silence and broken dreams. Lucas sat on the park bench with Ethan, the autumn wind rustling leaves around them. Ethan said, "You've been quiet all day." Lucas stared at the ground, whispering, "I don't know who I am anymore." His voice trembled with exhaustion. Ethan frowned, leaning closer. "You're still you, man. This doesn't change that." Lucas shook his head, muttering, "It feels like it's swallowing me." Ethan rested a hand on his shoulder. "I can't fix it, but I'll be here." Lucas' chest tightened at his friend's steady words. For a moment, the weight inside him loosened. He whispered, "I don't know what I'd do without you." Ethan gave him a faint smile, though his eyes showed his own hidden pain. The wind picked up, scattering golden leaves across their shoes. Lucas exhaled, long and heavy, realizing Ethan's presence was the only steady ground he had left. Lucas lay awake at night, the shadows of his room shifting across the walls. His heart raced as whispers of fear filled his head. "What if they stop loving me too?" he muttered into the dark. The silence answered cruelly. His chest felt tight, his breath shallow. He squeezed his pillow until his knuckles ached, trying to keep the panic from swallowing him. Memories of laughter and birthdays flickered in his mind, now hollow echoes. He whispered, "Why wasn't I enough?" His eyes burned as fresh tears blurred the ceiling above. The fear grew louder, a voice inside telling him he'd be left behind. Lucas curled up, pulling the blanket over his head, as if it could shield him. But the darkness only grew heavier, pressing against every corner of his fragile heart. He lay there trembling, wishing for morning light to break the nightmare. The next morning, Lucas sat at the kitchen table with Anna. Her hands shook as she stirred her coffee, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to make this better." Lucas looked at her with hollow eyes, whispering, "Do you still love him?" The question hung heavy in the air. Anna's lip trembled and she whispered, "I don't know anymore." Lucas clenched his fists, his chest tightening. "How can you not know?" His voice rose, sharp with desperation. Anna's tears fell silently, dripping onto the table. "I'm so tired, Lucas," she said, her voice raw. He bit his lip until it bled, unable to look at her. The kitchen was filled with quiet misery, broken only by the clock's ticking. Lucas whispered, "I just wanted us to be okay." Anna reached for his hand, but he pulled away, his heart pounding with anger and sorrow. That evening, Anna collapsed on the couch, her face buried in her hands. Lucas stood by the doorway watching her shoulders shake violently. James walked in, his face tired, and froze. "Anna," he muttered, his voice flat. She didn't look up, sobbing, "I can't do this anymore." Lucas' throat tightened as he whispered, "Stop hurting each other." His words were fragile, but desperate. James rubbed his forehead, muttering, "We're just broken." Anna cried louder, her voice shaking, "I gave everything." James turned away, fists clenched at his sides. Lucas' eyes filled as he whispered, "You're breaking me too." His voice cracked, shattering the silence. Anna looked up at him, her eyes red with guilt. James stood frozen, unable to meet their gaze. The room was heavy with despair, each breath suffocating under the weight of their grief. Lucas sat alone in the backyard, the night sky vast above him. The grass was cold beneath his hands, the smell of earth grounding him. He whispered, "This doesn't feel like home anymore." His breath trembled in the cool air. He thought of birthdays, laughter, moments when life felt whole. Now it was only fragments, slipping through his fingers. The house behind him loomed like a ghost, filled with pain. Lucas closed his eyes, whispering, "I just want peace." His chest ached, a heavy longing that words could never satisfy. The stars shimmered faintly, distant and unreachable. He hugged his knees tightly, trembling. For a brief moment, he imagined running far away, where silence wasn't heavy but kind. But he stayed, rooted in the only home he had, even if it was breaking him piece by piece. Lucas sat on the stairs, his heart heavy, when he overheard Anna whispering to James in the kitchen. Her voice trembled as she said, "I can't keep this secret from him forever." James' voice was sharp. "He doesn't need to know." Lucas' chest tightened as he leaned closer. His mind raced, panic clawing at his stomach. He whispered to himself, "Secret? What secret?" Anna's sob broke the silence. "He deserves the truth." James' footsteps grew louder, his tone rising. "It will destroy him." Lucas froze, his breath shallow. His hands gripped the railing, cold sweat running down his back. The words became muffled, but the damage was done. He stumbled back, his heart pounding in his ears. His body shook as he whispered, "What are they hiding from me?" For the first time, he feared that the cracks in his family ran deeper than he could bear. Later that night, Lucas confronted Anna in the living room, his voice trembling with anger. "What are you hiding from me?" Anna froze, her face pale, her lips parting in shock. "Lucas, please," she whispered. He shook his head, his fists clenched. "Don't lie to me anymore. I heard you." Anna's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "I didn't want you to find out this way." Lucas shouted, "Then tell me." His voice cracked with desperation. Anna's hands shook as she whispered, "Your father, he wasn't faithful." Lucas staggered back, his chest heaving, the words slicing through him like knives. "You're lying," he gasped, his world collapsing. Anna sobbed, "I wish I was." The silence that followed was unbearable, filling every corner of the room with devastation. Lucas clutched his chest, whispering, "No, it can't be true." Lucas stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him, his breath ragged. James was in the hallway, startled by his son's fury. Lucas shouted, "How could you? How could you betray her?" His voice shook with rage and sorrow. James froze, his face hardening. "You don't understand," he muttered. Lucas' fists shook as he screamed, "I understand enough. You broke her. You broke us." James' jaw tightened, his silence louder than words. Lucas' tears spilled down his cheeks as he shoved past him. "I'll never forgive you," he whispered bitterly, his chest heavy with anguish. James reached out, but his hand dropped, powerless. The house felt like it was collapsing under the weight of their fractured love. Lucas' sobs echoed through the hallway, each one tearing deeper into the fragile bond that had once held them together. Anna sat at the kitchen table, her face buried in her hands. Lucas sat across from her, still trembling. His voice was quiet but sharp. "How long have you known?" Anna lifted her head slowly, her face streaked with tears. "Years," she whispered, her voice breaking. Lucas' eyes widened, his body stiffening. "And you stayed?" His words were filled with disbelief. Anna sobbed, "I stayed for you. I thought keeping the family together would protect you." Lucas slammed his hands on the table. "You should have told me." His voice cracked, filled with betrayal. Anna whispered, "I didn't want to see you hurt." Lucas shook his head, muttering, "You hurt me more by hiding it." The silence stretched long, only the ticking clock filling the air. Lucas' chest ached as he realized the truth had been living in their home all along, festering in silence. Lucas retreated to his room, slamming the door and collapsing onto his bed. His chest rose and fell rapidly as sobs shook him. He whispered into the darkness, "Everything was a lie." His fists pounded the mattress as his tears soaked the pillow. His heart felt like it was splitting apart. The betrayal burned deep, more painful than anything before. He screamed into the silence, "Why did you do this to me?" His voice cracked and faded into quiet sobs. His body curled inward, small and broken, as though trying to protect himself from the truth. The air felt suffocating. Every shadow, a reminder of the secret that had destroyed his world. Lucas pressed his face into the pillow, muffling his cries, whispering, "I'll never be the same again." The night stretched endlessly, holding his pain with no relief in sight. Lucas stormed into the living room, his voice raw and furious. "You ruined everything." His fists trembled at his sides, his chest heaving. James stood stiffly by the window, his face shadowed. "I made mistakes, but I'm still your father," he said firmly. Lucas' voice cracked as he shouted, "You don't deserve that title." Anna rushed in, her eyes wide, whispering, "Please stop." But Lucas' fury couldn't be contained. He pointed a trembling finger at James. "You lied to us, you betrayed us, and you shattered me." His words spilled like fire, years of broken trust exploding at once. James' jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed guilt. "I'm sorry," he muttered, voice nearly lost. Lucas' tears fell freely, his anger twisting into grief. Sorry doesn't fix this, he whispered, his whole body trembling with rage and sorrow. James stepped closer, his voice heavy. I did what I thought was right. Lucas backed away, his hands trembling. Right? You destroyed us. His words echoed, breaking through the silence. Anna's sob filled the space. Please, don't tear each other apart. James clenched his fists, his voice sharp. I never wanted this. Lucas screamed, but you made it happen. His throat burned as every emotion spilled out, anger and heartbreak colliding. James' eyes flickered with regret, but his silence was louder than his words. Lucas' knees buckled slightly, his chest heaving. Anna cried out, Stop! You're breaking him. The house felt like it was shaking under the weight of their pain, every word louder than the last. Lucas' tears streamed down his face as his voice cracked. You're not the man I thought you were. Anna fell to her knees, her hands clutching at the rug, her sobs shaking her whole body. I can't take this anymore, she cried. Lucas turned to her, his rage softening into horror. Mom, he whispered, his voice breaking. James froze, guilt flashing in his eyes. Lucas knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he tried to comfort her. I'm sorry, he whispered desperately, though he knew it wasn't his fault. Anna shook her head, her words muffled through her tears. I failed you. Lucas' chest ached as he cried. No, you didn't. James took a step forward, his face pale, his voice rough. Anna, he muttered. But she recoiled at the sound. Lucas glared at him, whispering, You see what you've done? The silence afterward was unbearable. A silence filled with shattered love and unbearable grief. Lucas stood, his face streaked with tears, his voice trembling but louder than ever. I can't live like this anymore. He pointed at James, shouting, You made this house a prison. James' face twisted with pain as he said, I never wanted to hurt you. Lucas shook his head violently, his voice cracking. But you did. Every lie, every silence. You killed us. Anna sat in silence, her head bowed, tears dripping onto her hands. James stepped forward, his voice breaking for the first time. I lost myself. I lost you. Lucas' chest heaved, his anger warring with sorrow. He whispered, Then find yourself, because I can't carry this anymore. His words hung heavy, raw and final. The weight of years of pain filled the air, pressing them all into silence. The room shook with silence as Lucas' final words lingered. He collapsed onto the couch, his body trembling from exhaustion. I can't fight anymore, he whispered, his voice hollow. Anna reached for his hand, her touch gentle but uncertain. James stood frozen, his face pale, his eyes filled with tears he could no longer hold back. I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice breaking. Lucas turned his face away, muttering, Sorry isn't enough. His tears dripped silently onto his hoodie, his body curling inward as if to shield himself from the pain. Anna stroked his hand softly, whispering, We'll get through this somehow. The air was thick, suffocating yet filled with raw humanity. The family sat in broken silence, three souls bound by love and destruction, each of them fractured, none of them whole. The house was silent after the storm of words. Lucas sat in his room, staring at the faint glow of the moon through his window. His heart felt torn, yet a strange calm settled over him. He whispered, It's broken, but I'm still here. His chest ached as he leaned back, exhaustion pulling him down. Anna stood quietly in the doorway, her face tired but gentle. She said softly, We'll survive this, Lucas. Her voice wavered with doubt, but it carried hope. Lucas turned his face toward her, tears glistening. I don't know how, he admitted. Anna stepped closer, whispering, One day at a time. The silence between them was fragile but warmer than before. Lucas nodded faintly, the first acceptance of the truth pressing into him. The family was fractured, but he was not completely alone. The next morning, Lucas sat at the kitchen table, a bowl of cereal untouched before him. Anna placed her hand gently on his shoulder, her touch trembling. She whispered, We'll find a way. Lucas glanced up, his face pale but calmer. He muttered, I'm scared. Anna leaned down, brushing his hair back gently. "Me too," she admitted. James entered quietly, his face weary, his voice subdued. "We'll do better," he said. Lucas' eyes narrowed slightly, his pain still raw. He whispered, "You have to." The kitchen felt heavy, but there was a spark of something fragile. An unspoken promise that even broken families could still breathe. Lucas exhaled slowly, his chest rising and falling with shaky determination. Later that day, Ethan found Lucas sitting under a tree at school, his face turned toward the sky. "You holding up?" Ethan asked gently. Lucas gave a weak smile. "Not really, but I'm still breathing." Ethan sat beside him, shoulders touching. "That's enough for now," he said firmly. Lucas sighed, whispering, "It feels like everything's broken inside." Ethan looked at him steadily. "Then we'll build something new." The words sank deep into Lucas' chest, a balm against his ache. He muttered, "I don't deserve a friend like you." Ethan shook his head, smiling faintly. "You don't have to deserve it, you just have it." Lucas blinked away fresh tears, whispering, "Thank you." For the first time, the weight inside felt lighter. That evening, Lucas stood on the porch with Anna beside him. The cool night air carried the smell of rain, and the stars shimmered faintly above. Anna whispered, "Do you think we'll ever be the same?" Lucas shook his head slowly. "No," he answered softly. "But maybe that's okay." Anna glanced at him, her eyes glistening with tears. "I wish I could give you back the life you had." Lucas sighed, his voice low but steady. "You've given me enough. You stayed." The words hung in the air, raw but honest. Anna wrapped her arm gently around his shoulders, holding him close. Lucas leaned against her, letting the quiet moment soothe his scars. Lucas lay in bed, the moonlight washing across his face. His breathing slowed as exhaustion claimed him. He whispered to himself, "I can't fix them, but I'll survive." His words trembled but carried quiet strength. He clutched his pillow, his body curling slightly, but there was peace in his eyes. In the silence, memories of love and laughter drifted in like fading echoes. He whispered softly, "I'll carry them with me, even the broken pieces." His chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, each breath a small act of resilience. Outside, the night was calm, the house silent but less heavy. Lucas' eyes closed, and in the quiet darkness, hope lingered faintly, fragile but real.